Thank you. Good evening. I am Michelle Sturgis of the NAACP. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, the NAACP, and the News Gazette, I welcome you to tonight's candidate forum. Tonight's forum is for the Parkland College Board of Trustees. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are unfortunately not presenting this forum in person. We have received many questions for these forums. Similar questions which have been submitted have been consolidated, and consequently, your question may not be asked in precisely the way you submitted it. Due to limited time, we may not be able to get to all of the submitted questions. After the forum, this video will be available on the League's YouTube channel and Facebook page in a few days. You can also find this video in the Nonpartisan Voters Guide at voterschampaign.org, at votechampaign.org, not voter. Each forum will be linked to the candidates for information. It will also be broadcast by UPTV. The UPTV schedule is available on the City of Urbana website. I will be the moderator for this forum. The order for candidates is alphabetical. Therefore, Maureen Banks will open, next Jared Clem, following Bradley Uken, and James Vole will close. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for an opening statement. I will then ask questions submitted prior to the forum. And candidates will each have 1 minute to answer these questions. At the end, each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Candidates will kindly refrain from any negative attacks on the other candidate, will not mention the other candidate by name, and speak only to what they plan to do if elected to office. Ms. Banks will begin her opening statement. And you can take yourself off of mute. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you, League of Women Voters, NAACP, and the News Gazette for hosting this important forum about one of our most important assets that are located regionally. You know, Parkland is a real deal. It is up, over, and back of a deal for citizens in District 505 to get ready for a career change, to learn basic skills, to find more productive work and therefore a higher paying job, to get ready for a 4-year school, and to learn, maybe just to learn for the pleasure of learning. And it's a really nice price. Parkland offers a vast array of options, and as a trustee, I would work hard to make sure that these options remain available to the largest number of our constituents at an affordable price. You know, this is a pivotal time. We have new leadership that's coming on board. Enrollment declines mean severe declines in revenue, and we have students that desperately are in need of being on campus for that hands-on exposure that's crucial for our programs that we offer at Parkland. These programs, they supply career-ready employees to local businesses and professional settings. But remote learning is not sufficient for all learners and all things that are learned. I have a doctorate from the big school down the road there, but I turned to Parkland for a series of basic and practical skills that I needed to establish my business. Parkland was a real deal. And if the last 12 months have shown us anything, it's that colleges need students, students need colleges, bills must be paid, and recovery from a worldwide pandemic is slow, it's costly, and it requires sound judgment to bring us back to the pathway of serving all the people. So coming to grips with our financial and enrollment hits for the last year or so is my first priority. We have to do this without further damage to programs that are important to our constituents. Thank you, and I look forward to a good exchange this evening.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Clem.
Good evening, and thank you guys. I appreciate the hosts of the forum and as well as the other candidates. And I really appreciate the fact that there's a good group, and no matter what, we're in good shape. But my name's Jared Clem. I'm born and raised in Champaign County. I went to Cary Busey, Franklin, and Centennial High School, and after high school, I went on to Parkland Community College. Um, I went to Parkland for ag and ag business. I came from a fourth generation farm family, raised livestock and um, corn and beans and cover crops. And then after Parkland, that gave me the pathway to become an electrician. I went into the trades after that. And without the education that I received at Parkland, I would have never been able to take the path that I did. So, that's what it means to me, and why I'm running in this race is because Parkland gave me the ability to be who I am now, and I'd like to further that in the future. After becoming an electrician, I went on to Eastern Illinois University, where I finished a bachelor's in organizational development, and now I work in the office for the local IBW, and I administer benefits and do those things. So that's a little bit about me and who I am. And what I would like to see at Parkland in the future is a better pathway for the trades, businesses, industry, agriculture to have the ability to train the students, the workers, whether they're 18, fresh out of high school, like I went when I was there, or they're returning to school later in life and retraining for a new career, a pathway to jobs. And I feel like that will help not only the students, but the industries, the businesses that need trained workers in the future. So thank you again. I appreciate it and look forward to a great forum.
Thank you. Mr. Yukin?
Yeah, I too want to say thanks for the host tonight for providing this opportunity to share information about each of us. Parkland is such a phenomenal asset to this community. There's no question about that. But a little bit about myself. I grew up on a farm here in Champaign County. My parents still farm. I help out on the farm when I can. I graduated from Rantoul High School and then attended Parkland College for 2 years. Finished up at Parkland and went over to Illinois State for a couple years, then started on my career with the Farm Bureau. I work here for the Champaign County Farm Bureau. Live in Mahomet with my wife, Christine, who is a teacher's aide at Lincoln Trail for third grade, helping some of those kids that need just a little bit of a boost, that are kind of slipping a little bit in some of their subject matter. She helps them get caught back up. My oldest son just graduated from high school. Matter of fact, just a couple of weeks ago, he got back from basic training for the Illinois National Guard. My middle one is a junior in high school. And then my youngest daughter is a daughter, and she's a sophomore in high school. So there's really 3 reasons why I'm want to run and am running for Parkland College. One is I believe in the mission of Parkland, which is engage the community in learning. And I think the key word in that mission is community, because it is such a community asset to what it offers. And to me, community means more than just that high school senior. It's that individual who's in the workforce that wants to go back and get some additional skill training so they can get a better job or get a promotion. But it's also for that lifelong learner that's maybe retired and just wants to have fun and take a class. So I think the other reason is I want to help continue the tradition, the successful tradition that Parkland College has established. I mean, you can't go through a day without interacting with someone in this community that didn't do something or hasn't attended Parkland or has a connection to Parkland. And the last thing is I just want to ensure that Parkland remains an affordable option for all the residents of the district. So thanks again for hosting tonight.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Voiles.
Hi, my name is Jim Voiles, and I ran for the board in 2015, primarily because of my experience as a school administrator, seeing how important Parkland was growing and becoming to the students as graduating classes, the percentage of those attending Parkland increased over the years. I became concerned when I saw the financial struggle that Parkland was in when I ran, and my goal was to work towards, are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay, something else came up on the screen. When the financial situation, and in the course of my first term, we've been able to change the operational reserve to just over 40% when it was below close to 20% when I came on. And that was because of hard decisions that had to be made, both in staffing and early retirement incentives, and budget cuts, reductions. You cannot have a quality program unless you are financially sound. And that's what I spent my working life dealing with, was budgets, levies, tax extensions. And my goal is to keep the tax rate the same as it's been for the last decade in the operating fund. I have a responsibility to the taxpayers, and I also have a responsibility to students. And I was pleased in my first term to be elected vice chairman of the Board of Trustees. I took that as a compliment from my fellow board members.
Thank you. Now we will begin our questions. The questions we're going to be alternating. So it's for you guys, so bear with me. If I could get them out of order, I apologize in advance, but here we go. So the first question, Ms. Banks, you will start first. And here we go. It says, enrollment has been shrinking for several years and is now what it was in the mid-'80s. Why do you think enrollment is shrinking?
I think right now, enrollment is a very serious situation for higher ed in general, across the board. The COVID pandemic has really placed a strain on higher ed, all kinds of higher ed. And in fact, higher ed colleges and universities are struggling with their budgets because of the costs and expenses and things that have been attributed to the COVID-19. Right now, Parkland enrollment is down almost 18%, and it's not unlike all of the other higher ed institutions around the state and around the U.S. I guess what's related to enrollment being down is just the fact that the revenue is severely decreased as well. And there's been a slow decline of revenue from the state and from the sources for higher ed and for Parkland in general, specifically.
Okay, thank you. Next, Mr. Clem. Same question.
Yeah, no, I think so. When a student is graduating or going back to school, they're going to have to look at the financial aspect of it, and then what the college or university offers. So it's not, it's understood throughout the state that many students are leaving and going to other states. And so I think the main things we need to do is continue to make Parkland an affordable option. We need to offer more programming to be relevant to businesses and the community. and then try and make a financial impact and make a more financial, more financially able for people to come to it. So I would say people are leaving because they're going to other industries, or other places, and we need to try and offer a training program so that they can work to those without leaving the state. And then you know oh, sorry. See, stop. Anyway, offer more options to try and keep them here.
Okay, thank you. And Ed, he's going to, if you can make sure you pay attention to the screen, he has the stop sign up. Can everybody see that? When he puts that up? Okay, just want to make sure.
I can see it, but I'm not looking at it.
Okay, Mr. Yukin, you're next. Do you need me to read the question again?
No.
Okay.
I think that in the short term, I think we've seen some COVID impacts by it. And some of that was, we have seen that decrease of in that neighborhood of 18%. And I think the short term was we saw less students maybe from out of district coming down here that normally would have maybe come to Parkland, that would have also been associated with the U of I. So I think some of that, we saw some decrease in that out of district enrollment, that because there wasn't in-person learning, or in conjunction with the university, there wasn't as much in-person learning. I think some of those students stayed home. I think also we did see we are seeing more and more students leave the state of Illinois to go to school. There are obviously quality education opportunities outside of Illinois. And then I think really maybe the final reason could be, or a potential could be, is just the job market. There are some individuals that are just getting into the job market rather than going to college, because there are some careers that we have that don't require additional training past high school. So I think you see some of that as well.
Thank you. Mr. Voiles?
Well, I think Brad sort of hit it on the head there in his last comment. The nature of a community college is that when the economy is good, your enrollment generally struggles. When there's a recession on hand, people go back for more training. That's just a trend that you have there. Now, as far as the kids going other places, that's kids going to four-year institutions primarily because of the economic situation. I know Chafin Rose accused Murray State and Indiana State of raiding Southern Illinois and putting the pressure on SIU. Yes, COVID has had an impact, and it will continue to have an impact until we get back to in-class instruction. I have a granddaughter attending Parkland, and quite frankly, she doesn't like remote learning. She wants the personal touch. She needs to see and talk to teachers.
Thank you. The next question is still in regards to shrinkage and cutting cost. It's kind of like a three-part question. So I'm going to read it off to you. What should be the financial response? That's the first part. Costs have to be cut. Where should cuts fall? And then the second part, the third part, specifically, should cuts in administration be prioritized over program cuts? Please be specific as you can. And this question goes to, we're going to alternate Mr. Clem.
All right. That's a complex question, but a good one. So it's definitely understood that revenues are declining, probably in part to state budget as well as enrollment being down. And so the question, then goes to, how do we fix that? How do we balance that out? And there's a few things you can do, but I don't believe that it should fall on the students or the learners. The people coming back for education and training shouldn't have to bear the brunt of that. Of course, everybody has, to pay, some tuition or whatever, unfortunately, especially at the community college level. But I feel like that should be made up through other sources. So Ideally, maybe the state or other grants in certain learning areas. If there's possibilities for workforce innovation grants or even working with industry business, they could help fund that for training, advanced training.
Thank you. Mr. Yukin?
Well, I think there's really three basic areas of funding for Parkland. One is the state funding side of things, and that's sort of the smallest leg of the stool. Then you've kind of got the tuition side of things, which of course comes from the students. And the final part would be the third leg would be the property tax side of things. I think there needs to be a balance with them. And I'm not implying that those need to be perfectly balanced, but I think that you can't let one of those legs of the stool get out of whack and be led and be too heavy. And so I think there's a challenge there. And so when we talk cuts, I think Parkland made some of those with offering some programs with some early retirement options to that many faculty took advantage of. But I think, and it is, as far as administrative cuts, I think that has to be on the table at least to talk about. But again, I think you've got to try to keep those three legs of the stool kind of in line. And again, that's the state funding, which is about 10%, the tuition, which is about 49%, and then the property tax about 39%. So you got to kind of keep those equal as you kind of can or close.
Thank you. Mr. Voice, same question.
Well, the community college is supported supposedly on three legs, you know, the state funding, the property taxes, and the tuition and fees. The one that has really collapsed is the state funding, and that needs to be corrected some way. Parkland has made cost reductions. Everything, as I looked at it, was on the table. But we first had to look at if there were programs that were not in demand. And we found that there were, and we found that we had staff that, because of that, were not needed. And in fact, I made the motion on a reduction in force. It was a small number, but it was still a reduction in force. You have to look at everything. We've eliminated a lot of expenditures on supplies and materials. There are no trips by people going on meetings and such. And my stop sign is up.
Thank you. Ms. Banks, same question. And you're muted.
We apologize for that.
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay, I think that my colleagues have mentioned that the state and the property and the tuition are the basic foundations of where the revenue is for Parkland, for community colleges. And right now, higher ed is suffering from reduced support from the state. Parkland doesn't get the majority of its funding from the state, but it's still important what they do get from the state. And we have to really, really work to make sure that the state keeps the higher ed budgets as a priority. I think also concentrating on programs that are of interest to students, to make sure that, you know, these are the ones in demand. We need to take a look at that. And then eventually tuition will have to be used as a way to control costs.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next question. We'll start with Mr. Yukin. Recently, the board approved to not increase tuition for the incoming semester. What are your thoughts on tuition increases in the future?
Well, I think that's one of the things I mentioned in my opening statement was we've got to ensure that the college, Parkland College remains an affordable option for all residents of the district. It has to be. Whether you're from Champaign-Urbana or you're from Foodsland or you're from any corner of the district, we have to make sure that it remains affordable. Parkland College is a very affordable option for a lot of people. It's running at $148.58 per credit hour, and really that may sound like a lot, but if you really compare that, it's super affordable for what you get out of it. The quality of education, the quality of classes that they offer is phenomenal and really matches up well with that. And so I think that we've got to continue to make sure that that tuition number stays reasonable so that we can continue to offer, again, not only to those high school students, but also the workforce for workforce development. And yet again, for those individuals that want to go back and have a little bit of fun and learn about a subject matter they've always had an interest in.
Okay, thank
Would
you.
Would you restate the question, please?
Okay, I sure will. And Mr. Voiska, you're going to be next. And the question is, recently the board approved to not increase tuition for the coming semester. What are your thoughts on tuition increases in the future?
Okay, in fact, 3 out of the last 4 years, I voted to not increase tuition. And the primary reason is with forward, looking budgeting, we felt that could be done in good faith with the students and their parents. We've made some, as I said, cost reductions, and that's one of the benefits of that was being able to freeze the tuition and fees for these students. I think that it's a responsible act on the part of the Board of Trustees, and going down the road, we just have to look at it again. We're going to have to see what the enrollment is, because that's a big factor in that. And quite frankly, I'm expecting enrollment to pick up once the COVID situation shuts down.
Thank you. Same question, Ms. Banks?
Thank you. The Parkland is, I mentioned Parkland is the real deal. And it really is, it does have, the costs associated with it are tremendous, really, when you compare to other costs in higher ed. Ideally, we all want to protect tuition. We don't want to pass that along to students. But I think that eventually we've got to try different things to protect that tuition. But I think tuition is going to have to be a part of it. One of the things that can be done is to set a level of tuition for first year students, and the students that come in and do a 2-year program, you can freeze their tuition for the length of their program, and see where that nets you as far as subsequent cohort classes coming behind that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clem, same question.
Thank you. It's a great question. So I don't believe that it should be on the backs of the learners, but how you could accomplish that is with the vocational, with dual credit, with occupational training programs. If you could partner again with industries or other areas, hopefully, or school districts, maybe for seniors in high school getting dual credit classes, you could offset some of those costs and try and keep the tuition levels as low as possible. So I think that keeping the community college affordable will help with the admissions and solve that, and give people that want to boost themselves into other areas, or maybe a four-year school, or maybe an industry like agriculture. Keeping the tuition affordable is going to be one of the most important parts of drawing students and new learners in that. So I don't believe that a tuition increase will help solve that, and I feel like we can try and get that leg of the stool fixed in other areas.
Thank you. Next set of questions. Mr. Voyers will go first. And the question is, Parkland has started some programs for improving adult literacy. Some of it has been funded poorly by the state. What do you think is the future of this type of program for Parkland?
Well, obviously, adequate funding from the state, is a requirement. I don't know whether Parkland in general can take money out of its general operating fund, out of the design of transfer courses, vocational courses, training courses, to necessarily 100% support that if the state isn't going to kick in. I think Parkland can do their share, but we have to lobby the state for responsible funding of those kinds of programs. Parkland has, been very good at, well, they've got a new program, that grants that they've gone after, and in precision agriculture and in the advanced mechanical training academy. And I got my stop sign.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Banks, same question.
Thank you. I'm a real supporter of adult literacy programs, and I'm happy to hear that Parkland is receiving money from the state to address this. It's just with the state's track record, it's a little scary. They offer the funding to get us started, but then I think that we have to go into this with our eyes wide open from the very beginning and look at ways that try to brainstorm ways that we can eventually become more self-sufficient, that program at least, so that it's not so dependent upon state dollars, because the state is, the state of Illinois has troubles as it is. And when they start cutting back, unfortunately, it's higher ed that suffers. So it's something that we need to be looking at from the very beginning, is how do we make these more self-sufficient programs? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clem, same question.
Could you repeat that one more time? I think I had it, but I just want to make sure I had the right, or I had the
Sure
good
will.
understanding.
Okay. Parkland has started some programs for improving adult literacy. Some of it has been funded poorly by the state. What do you think is the future of this type of program for Parkland?
Okay, yeah. So that's a great question. And again, adult literacy is an extremely important issue, and I'm a diehard advocate of adult learning and people being able to go back at any level, especially with literacy. But in this area, we've got our state senator Scott Bennett's the chair of the Higher Education Committee, and I know Senator Rose is definitely an advocate for education. So I feel like we've got some good paths to go through the state to try and increase the funding. All of our elected officials on the state level, on both sides of the spectrum, I believe, are advocates of higher education. So I think we can use all of those resources to try and do what we can with funding, and then again, maybe use partners in the private sector to also increase that, the funds for that.
Thank you. And Mr. Yukin, same question?
Yeah, again, I agree 100%. I mean, adult learning is critical as people want to further their careers or just to better themselves, right? To gain another skill set that they maybe are lacking in. So I think it's critical. It's unfortunate the state isn't perhaps living up to their end of the bargain. But I think the state has a whole nother set of challenges, and we don't have enough time tonight to discuss that issue, because that's a 2 days worth of discussion of the finances of the state of Illinois. So I don't think moving forward, while I agree 100%, we have an opportunity to visit with our state legislators to remind them of the commitment. I wouldn't hold my breath that the state is going to come through with a lot of money for us. So I think then we have to look at the grant avenue, and I think the big thing is community partnerships with the private sector, and that could be with a whole host of groups that have an interest in this topic as well. So I think we can't kid ourselves that the state's going to be there for us. We've got to look at those partnerships throughout the community with industry, et cetera.
Thank you. Next question, we'll begin, next new set of questions, so begin with Ms. Banks. Let's see. It is recently announced that Parkland could get a manufacturing center. What are your thoughts on this, and how will it impact the community?
Thank you. So the manufacturing center is, that is a very nice opportunity for Parkland. I think that community colleges, they represent their constituents within, the surrounding communities, and the industries that are there play a really important role in taking Parkland graduates and having them work in their industries. The manufacturing center is, I think it would be it's a plus for Parkland. I think it starts us into, or continues us into, the area of this cooperation between Parkland and industry, that there are needs that they work together, and Parkland can provide career-ready employees for industry, and industry can provide this collaborative relationship with Parkland as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clem?
Oh, so I think it's huge. I've been on the Champaign County Workforce Innovation Board for about 4 years. And so what we try and do is connect workers with industry. And manufacturing is one of the industries that could stand the most to gain in this area. So the fact that industry is constantly, or manufacturing is constantly evolving, just lends to the fact that a new training center for that is critical. So I think it would be deeply impactful for our area to get that training center, and it would be really nice to be able to bring people in our, new learners in our area into that facility to learn state-of-the-art manufacturing. The manufacturing that was done 50 years ago is different than what's being done today. I know that because I've been in many different factories. There's a lot of different automotive parts that are manufactured in Champaign, Urbana, and the facilities that we have today are different than what they were in the past. So that, just that alone will help get us up our area to a modern standard.
Okay, thank you. Same question, Mr. Yukin?
Yeah, I think it's a phenomenal opportunity. It's really a workforce development opportunity to partner with the private sector to say, manufacturer X, what skill set do you need your employees to have? And then to take that knowledge and say, hey, let's train these people that they have that skill set so they can get a job in your manufacturing plant. It's a phenomenal opportunity. It's exciting because I think that sometimes some of the younger generations look at it is not being very exciting to go work in a manufacturing plant. But if we can tell them that we can help you get that skill set and you can have a lifelong career in manufacturing, I think that's phenomenal to get another generation interested in it. I think it also leads to economic development as well, because if we're able to show not only the 12 counties, portions of 12 counties that make up Parkland's district, that we can train as an employment or an workforce, there could be manufacturing that says, listen, we want to locate there because this manufacturing center can teach our employees of what we need them to do and to give them the skills to be successful for us to make a product. And I think economic development is not out of the realm of possibility with it either.
Thank you. Mr. Voice, same question.
Okay, although this Advanced Manufacturing Training Academy is not a done deal, I'm committed to doing what I can to bring the proposed 7.3 to $7.5 million grant to fruition. Tremendous training opportunities for our students in assembly, tool die, and computer-assisted robotics, which would dovetail in with our nation-leading precision agriculture program. It would truly make Parkland a workforce pipeline for East Central Illinois, and especially Champaign County, where people can go there and come out ready for the workforce. So as a trustee, I will do what I can to make sure that Parkland gets that grant, and it would involve an addition to the Tony Knoll building of laboratories and training facilities.
Okay, thank you. And we're coming, I know there's tons of questions that we have here, but I know we're not going to get to all of them tonight. So we're going to, it is a little bit after 9, so we're going to go ahead and start with our closing statements. Okay. We're going to start with Ms. Banks.
Okay, well, thank you. This has been very rewarding to be able to talk with you guys this evening. I really am impressed with Parkland. I have been a supporter of Parkland for a very long time. My husband and I are members of the President's Circle, and that's because we believe in the mission and the goals of Parkland. I think right now, Parkland we need to get faculty, staff, and students back to 2400 West Bradley Avenue. And this pandemic thing is not over, and it's really causing a strain on the college. And we really need to prepare for receiving faculty, staff, and students back to the campus, because they've been going through who knows what in the meantime. And now we're going to bring them all back together. So I think that we need to do some preparation, strategic preparation for that occurrence. I think we also need to be looking at enrollment, because declines in enrollment mean declines in revenue. And we can offer all kinds of programs that we want, but if we can't pay our bills, there's no one is going to benefit from that. I would like to see, I'm glad that Parkland is doing more collaboration with industry. Parkland is nimble. It's able to adjust to the needs of the citizenship. And we need to be able to keep Parkland able to do that. And it's what that means is that we need to to help it make sure that its budget is in alignment with its mission and that education is the priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clem, your closing remarks.
All right. Well, again, I want to say thank you to the hosts and then all the candidates. I appreciate everybody that's running in this because I do feel like everybody's got the best of Parkland at heart. But if elected, I would focus on the vocational and occupational training. And then I think dual credit is an important part of that. I understand that there's financial constraints. I sit on a very large pension fund and a very large health insurance fund. And so I understand financial constraints. We work through those on a regular basis, but sometimes you got to get creative. You got to apply for grants to do things where you can to try and be nimble, as Ms. Banks said, and move around. But our partnership with the community and the industry, the manufacturing, the building trades in this area is what's going to keep moving the ball forward, I feel like. And Parkland's done a good job, from the nursing program to the diesel tech, the aviation program. There's a lot of things that have helped make them a leader and a progressive leader in partnering. So if we can continue to do that, continue to grow, I feel like the enrollment then and the financial constraints will work themselves out. And again, lean on our state. We all know the state of Illinois and those issues. So again, in closing, I just wanted to say thank you guys. It's been a unique opportunity for myself, and I look forward to working with Parkland if elected, or if not. Either way, we'll continue to be a community partner in the future.
Thank you. Mr. Yukin, your closing remarks.
Thank you. I want to say just thanks again for everybody for this opportunity, and everybody that's going to watch it for taking the time to learn about the candidates. Civic engagement is sometimes, I think we're lacking a little bit in that, in engaging in the process and learning about the candidates. And so I hope everybody that watches this later also gets some good information. Parkland's got a lot of strengths to it. It's an agile, I use that word, it's an agile college. And what do I mean by that? It means that it can adjust and adapt to the needs of the district and the community. And I want to make sure it keeps being that we can adjust and make changes in a lot quicker, timely manner than other institutions can. We've got to make sure that Parkland continues to be affordable. It is today. We've got to make sure we can say that next year and the years to come, that it's an affordable option. That's not an easy thing, but I think it's critical. And the thing is, we've got to build on the community partnerships. We have a lot of those, whether it be with the trades councils, whether it be within the agricultural community, or with the local hospitals. With that, I think it's phenomenal, and we've got to build on that. And there's a number of ways we can do that, but we've got to continue to work those opportunities, and again, to build those relationships throughout the district with those communities. And again, I just want to end by saying thanks. Parkland is a phenomenal asset to this community, to the 12 counties it represents, and I'd appreciate your vote come April 6th.
Thank you. And last, Mr. Voles.
Well, I'd like to close by saying I would say that it is important that the Board of Trustees be made up of independent, experienced, and financially knowledgeable decision makers. I committed myself to Parkland College as a trustee after leaving my position as an educational leader because I saw the growing importance, as I said earlier, of Parkland College in the development of high school graduates. I feel I'm independent because I am beholden only to the students and the voters. I am free of boards, special interest groups, whose interest may not be in the best interest of Parkland or the taxpayers. I'm experienced at decision-making at all levels, whether it be in war, in the boardroom, in running a school, enforcing budget, or simply listening to people. Over the years, I've found out that I have learned a lot more by listening than by talking. I will hear your interests and your concerns. I have spent the years creating and managing budgets, and I have formulated responsible tax levies, I have dealt with bonding companies, designed bond levy extensions. I have just, and I'm not going to do that at Parkland, but I'm aware of it. And I can see if something's going awry. I have directed and supervised the construction of new educational facilities outside of Parkland. I've helped students deal, most importantly, with their struggles within the educational system. I hope that the undecided voter out there can see that I have a depth and wealth of knowledge and experience. And I hope that I can thank you for your vote for my reelection.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. Thanks again to the League of Women Voters of Champaign County, the NAACP, and the News Gazette for sponsoring of this forum. Thank you to our timer, Ed Royo, for keeping us on schedule. A special thanks to Jonah Von Berens, who put this series of forums together. Just a reminder, it's not too late to register to vote for the April 6th election. Information is available to County Clerk's website, on the County Clerk's website. Please vote. You can vote by mail, you can vote early, or vote on April the 6th. Because turnout is expected to be light, please check your polling place for April the 6th. Please vote. Thank you, candidates.